I didn't believe someone could live above me without me noticing. Not in a small apartment building like mine. The ceilings were thin, pipes rattled. You could hear someone sneeze 2 floors away. That's why what happened still bothers me. Because the signs were there long before I realized what they meant. I just thought they were normal apartment noises. Old buildings make sounds. Wood expands. Pipes move. Something shifts in the ceiling late at night and you assume it's nothing. That's how it started. Just small noises above my head around 2 or 3 a.m. Soft movements. Not footsteps exactly. More like something sliding slowly across the floor above my bedroom. I ignored it for weeks. The building only had 4 floors, and I lived on the top one. There was no apartment above mine, just the attic. Maintenance used it for old wiring and insulation. At least that's what the landlord told me when I moved in. One night I woke up to a sound directly over my bed. A slow dragging noise, like fabric moving across wood. I checked my phone. 3:17 a.m. I held my breath and listened. The sound stopped immediately, like whatever was making it knew I was awake. The silence felt heavier than the noise had. I lay there staring at the ceiling, waiting for something else. Nothing happened. Eventually, I convinced myself it was rats or raccoons. Old buildings get them sometimes. The next day, I mentioned it to the landlord. He shrugged and said the attic was sealed. No animals could get in. That should have made me feel better. Instead, it made the noises feel stranger. Over the next few nights, the sounds came back. Always after 3 a.m., slow movement, scraping, sometimes a faint thump. Once I thought I heard breathing through the ceiling vent above my closet. Not loud, just a quiet inhale followed by a long exhale. I turned on every light in the apartment that night. The sound stopped the moment the lights came on. That was the first time something about it felt wrong. Animals don't stop breathing when lights turn on. About a week later, I noticed something else. My attic access panel was slightly open. It was in the hallway ceiling, just a square wooden hatch with a metal latch. I had never opened it before. The building maintenance kept it locked, but that morning it wasn't closed all the way. Just a small gap, like someone had pushed it down from above. I stood on a chair and pushed it back into place. The latch clicked shut. I told myself maintenance must have checked something. But something about the panel bothered me. Dust had fallen onto the hallway floor beneath it. A lot of dust, like something had been moving around up there recently. That night the noises came earlier, around midnight. Slow footsteps directly above the living room this time. I froze on the couch listening. The steps moved from one side of the ceiling to the other. Then they stopped right above the attic hatch. I could feel my heart beating in my throat. For a moment I thought the panel might open, but it didn't. The footsteps slowly moved away. I didn't sleep much that night. 2 days later I found the journal. I came home from work and the attic panel was open again. Not just cracked this time, fully hanging down. The wooden ladder attached to it extended halfway toward the floor. I stared at it for a long time. The hallway felt colder than usual. I told myself maintenance must have come by while I was gone. Maybe they forgot to close it. Still, something about the ladder being down made the apartment feel different. Like the ceiling wasn't a barrier anymore. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed the ladder. The attic smelled like dust and insulation. My flashlight beam cut through thick particles floating in the air. Wooden beams crossed the ceiling. Old wires hung loosely between them. For a moment it looked normal, just an empty attic like any other building would have. Then I saw the mattress. It was shoved between 2 support beams near the far wall. A thin camping mattress covered with a gray blanket. Next to it were empty water bottles and food wrappers. My stomach dropped immediately. Someone had been living up here, directly above my apartment. The thought made my skin crawl. I took a step closer. That's when I saw the notebook, a black spiral journal sitting beside the mattress. I picked it up and flipped it open. The first page had a date written in shaky handwriting, almost a year ago. The entry read, They finally moved someone into the apartment below. I was worried they would leave it empty again. It's better when someone lives there. The sounds make it easier to sleep. I felt a cold wave move through my chest. I turned the page. The new tenant works late, comes home around midnight, watches videos on the couch for about an hour before going to bed. My fingers tightened around the notebook. That was exactly what I did every night. I flipped forward several pages. They started hearing the noises tonight. I need to be quieter when moving around the beams. The ceiling is thinner above the bedroom. My mouth went dry. Every page described my routine. What time I left for work, when I turned the lights off, when I woke up at night. It even described the time I fell asleep on the couch with the TV still playing. The last entry was from 2 nights ago. They almost discovered the hatch today. I need to be more careful, but it's getting harder to stay up here. I think they're starting to notice me. I slowly lowered the journal. Something above me creaked. Not above the attic, behind me. A soft shift of wood, like someone moving quietly across the beams. My flashlight beam trembled as I turned around. The attic looked empty, but I knew I wasn't alone. The beam swept across the insulation and wooden supports. Then it stopped. At the far corner of the attic, there was another mattress. I hadn't noticed it before because it blended into the shadows. This one wasn't empty. The blanket moved slightly. I heard breathing. Slow, careful breathing. The kind someone makes when they're pretending to be asleep. I couldn't move. My entire body locked up. The blanket slowly shifted again. Then a voice came from underneath it. Quiet, almost friendly. You weren't supposed to come up here. My flashlight flickered slightly. The breathing stopped. The blanket moved again. And that's when the attic hatch slammed shut below me. The ladder snapped upward violently, trapping me in the attic. The voice spoke again, this time right behind me. You read my journal. I didn't turn around. I couldn't, because I realized something worse in that moment. The mattress I had first seen, the one with the notebook, was still warm when I touched it, which meant whoever had been sleeping there was no longer there. And the breathing I heard behind me was much closer now. I don't live in that apartment anymore. I moved out the next morning. The landlord said the attic was empty when he checked it. No mattress, no bottles, no notebook, nothing. He told me I must have imagined it, but I know what I read. And sometimes late at night, I still wake up around 3 a.m. because I swear I hear footsteps above my ceiling. Slow ones, moving back and forth, like someone is pacing, listening, waiting for me to fall asleep again, so they can start writing about me. Has anyone else ever felt like someone might be living above them, without you knowing? I tried to convince myself it was over, that once I moved out of that apartment, whatever had been living above me stayed there. For a while it worked. My new place was across the city, different building, different neighborhood, new ceilings, new walls. Everything felt normal again. No footsteps at 3 a.m., no scraping above the ceiling, no attic hatch. For the first 2 weeks, I slept better than I had in months. But then the emails started. The first one arrived at exactly 3:17 a.m. I know the time because the notification sound woke me up. I rolled over, half asleep, expecting some random spam message. The subject line read, "You moved." That was it. No sender name, just an email address made of random letters and numbers. My stomach twisted immediately. I opened the message. Inside was a single sentence. "The new ceiling is thicker here." My hands went cold. I checked the rest of the email. No attachments, no images, just that sentence. I didn't reply. I told myself it had to be a coincidence, someone messing with me. Maybe a scam. Maybe someone who got my email from some random site. But then I checked the timestamp again. 3:17 a.m., the exact same time I used to wake up every night in the old apartment. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next morning I tried to laugh it off. People get weird spam emails all the time. But the second email came the next night, again at 3:17 a.m. This one had a different subject line. Your lights turn off at 12:43 a.m. now. My chest tightened when I read it, because that was true. In the new apartment, I usually stayed up a little later watching videos. I checked my living room. Every window was closed. The blinds were down. No one could see inside. I walked around the apartment slowly. Bedroom, bathroom, closet. Everything looked normal, but the ceiling suddenly felt much closer than it had before. That night I couldn't stop staring at it, listening, waiting for the sound of footsteps. But the ceiling stayed silent. 3 nights passed. Then the third email arrived, 3:17 a.m. again. Subject line, you found the journal too early. My heart dropped. I opened the message. This one was longer. I had been there for 8 months before you noticed me. Most tenants never do. They think the noises are rats, or pipes, or the building settling. You were different. You listened. My throat felt tight as I read the next line. But moving away doesn't change anything. Below that sentence was a photo. It took a moment for my brain to understand what I was looking at. It was my building's hallway, my current building. The photo was taken from above, like it had been taken from the ceiling vent. The same vent directly outside my apartment door. My hands started shaking. I slammed my laptop shut. For the first time since moving in, I looked up at the ceiling again. Really looked at it. My new apartment didn't have an attic hatch, but it did have something else. A square air vent above the hallway, exactly like the one in the photo. I grabbed a chair and stood on it. The vent was screwed into the ceiling, but something about it felt wrong. One of the screws was loose. I unscrewed it slowly. The metal vent cover came off easily. Dust fell down onto the floor. I lifted my flashlight and pointed it into the darkness inside the vent. The beam revealed metal ducting stretching away into blackness. For a second, everything looked empty. Then something shifted deep inside the vent, just slightly. A quiet scraping sound echoed through the metal, like fingernails dragging slowly across the inside walls. I stepped back immediately. The vent rattled softly, then something slid closer. I heard breathing, the same slow inhale, the same long exhale. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. Then a whisper came from inside the vent, right above my head, soft, almost amused. You weren't supposed to find the second place so quickly. I ran out of the apartment that night. I didn't even grab my wallet, I just ran. The police came later. They searched the vents, they searched the building roof. They found nothing. No person, no bags, no mattress, nothing. But they did find something else. Inside the vent above my hallway, a small black spiral notebook, the same one I found in the attic, except this time, it had a new entry, written just hours earlier. They're starting to understand. And underneath it, one more sentence. The next apartment has thicker walls. I wonder how long it will take them to notice me there. I moved again after that. Different city this time, different state, different everything. But something strange keeps happening. Every place I move into, the first night is always quiet, the second night too. But by the third night, right around 3:17 a.m., I start hearing the same sound again. Slow movement above my ceiling. Soft footsteps, careful ones, like someone trying not to wake me up. And sometimes, when I wake up suddenly, I swear I hear the faint scratching of a pen, writing, directly above my head. So I have to ask, if someone was secretly living above you, watching your routine, writing about your life every night, would you ever feel safe sleeping again? Or worse, what if they've already moved into the place above you too? I stopped telling people about it. At first I tried, friends, police, even a therapist once. But every time I explained the same story, the attic, the journal, the emails, the vents, I could see the same expression forming on their faces. Polite concern, followed by quiet disbelief. People hear things. People imagine things when they're stressed. That's what they told me. So eventually I stopped talking about it, but the sounds never stopped. It didn't matter how far I moved. Different cities, different buildings, different ceilings. After about 3 nights in every new place, it would start again. Soft movements above me, careful footsteps, always around 3:17 a.m., and always the same feeling, like someone was pacing slowly above my bed, listening, waiting. I started developing habits because of it. Before renting any new apartment, I would ask the landlord if there was an attic, if there were ceiling vents, if maintenance ever used the space above the units. They always said no, every single one, and every single time, the sound still came back. It's been almost a year now since the first attic. I've moved 6 times. Every time I hope it will stop. Every time it doesn't. But last night something changed. Something worse than the noises. Last night I finally found the journal again. I had just moved into a small studio apartment. The building was newer, concrete ceilings, no attic access, no vents big enough for a person. For the first time in months, I thought maybe I had finally outrun it. The first night passed quietly, so did the second. By the third night, I almost felt relieved. Maybe the whole thing really had been stress. Maybe moving far enough away had ended it. I went to bed early, around midnight. I woke up suddenly at 3:17 a.m., but this time, there were no footsteps, no scraping, no breathing above the ceiling, just silence. For a moment, I actually felt relief, until I noticed something sitting on my nightstand, a black spiral notebook, the same one. I knew it instantly. My chest felt like it collapsed inward. I don't remember placing it there. I don't remember bringing it when I moved, but there it was, the journal from the attic, sitting next to my phone. I picked it up slowly. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open it. The pages were filled with the same handwriting, the same entries about my routines, my old apartments, my sleep patterns, everything. But the newest pages were different. The dates were from this week, entries written after I moved here. My throat tightened as I read the most recent one. They keep moving. I keep following. But I think they're starting to understand how this works. I flipped to the next page. The words made my stomach drop. They always check the ceilings. They always listen for footsteps. But they never check the place that matters. My hands went cold. I slowly looked around the room. The ceiling was smooth concrete. Nothing there. No vents, no panels, no attic. Then I read the final sentence on the page, the last line written. I stopped living above them months ago. My breathing felt shallow. I turned the page. There was only one more entry, written just minutes earlier. They're reading this now. I froze. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. The closet door across the room. It was open, just slightly. A thin line of darkness between the door and the frame. My closet had been closed when I went to sleep. I know it had, because I always close it before bed. The apartment felt impossibly quiet, too quiet. Then I heard something inside the closet, the faintest movement, fabric shifting slowly. My heart started pounding. I stood up slowly from the bed. The floor creaked under my feet. The closet door moved slightly, like someone inside had shifted their weight. I didn't want to open it. Every instinct in my body told me not to. But the journal was still open in my hands. And I noticed something else. There was one last page, completely blank, except for one sentence written at the top. Fresh ink, still wet. I wonder if they'll check the closet before I finish writing this. My hands started shaking again, because I realized something. The handwriting wasn't finished. The last word trailed off, like the person writing it had stopped suddenly, right in the middle of the sentence. and the closet door just moved again, very slowly, opening a little wider. So now I'm sitting here writing this, trying to stay quiet, trying not to breathe too loud, because every few seconds, I hear something inside the closet shifting, softly, carefully, like someone trying not to be heard. And I keep thinking about the journal, about how every entry described my life perfectly, my routine, my habits, my movements, which means whoever wrote it has been watching me the entire time. Not from the attic, not from the vents, but from somewhere much closer. And the worst part? The closet door just opened another inch, and I swear I can see someone standing in the darkness behind it, watching me write this. So if this post suddenly stops, you'll know why. But before that happens, I need to ask something. Because if they really have been following me this whole time, if they've been living closer than I ever realized, then there's one question I can't stop thinking about. How many other journals like this exist? And how many people are being watched right now without ever realizing the person writing about them is already inside the same room?